All right, our next step is to flip the part flip the part to just do the chamfers on the other side of the holes. And we have a choice. We can either flip this about the x-axis, which would put this face on the fixed side of the jaw. Problem is this surface has got a loose tolerance on machining it, and if we end up smashing the part a little bit, that position is going to be off in the y-axis for these holes. So our dilemma is to keep this flat against the fixed side of the jaw. We need to flip the part about y. And then what we'll end up doing is probing this side just for our x-axis. And if we use a different offset number when we program it, then we could still leave the original one there. But if you're only making one piece, you're just going to probe the x-axis when you do your origin for this next operation, and then you can use the same parallel heights and the same Y position. Okay, so I'm going to hide this instance of the vise. I'm going to elect to flip this around the Y-axis. We're going to bring in another version of the vise. That's also going to be on 1 1/8" parallels. Okay, and then we're going to rotate the vise in orientation to where we want it. Just 90 degrees. Physically move it. To be below the part. We're going to hit OK. We're going to assemble a joint. We're going to use the width again. We're going to pick both ends of our vise jaw. We're going to place our snap point in the center of the parallel. And then we're going to do the width on the block. And our snap point is going to be the center bottom edge. Okay, that should snug into our vise. Okay, you want to make sure you double check there's no gaps or anything. And then we're going to change the width to 1.225, just like the last operation. And again, this operation is just doing the chamfers on the hole features. The vise and go to operation 1, which just looks like this. And for operation 1, we need our stock visible. Okay, operation 1 again is going to skim the top down. We're going to profile around the part, and then we're going to deburr the back of the part. Okay, we're going to go to setups, and we're going to make a new setup. And we're going to go to the stock tab, and we're going to base the stock from solid, and we're going to pick on our solid of the stock. Then we're going to go back to setup, and we need to select what is the actual part. So we're going to select the part and select our body that we labeled with the part number. Okay, so that should get our stock to the correct size. Now we need to Z-axis, plane, and X-axis. Pick on the top of the part, and then we're going to pick on one of the horizontal edges that's in the X-axis direction, so that the red arrow is pointed right, green away from us, and Z straight up. Now we can go to box points, and we're going to set our origin. So for the first op, we'll always base that off a stock box point, and we're going to use the lower left corner. There's some philosophies where you always use the top. Problem with that is, as you cut your parts and they vary in thickness, you got to keep adjusting every operation. If we pick the lower bottom, everything is cut to our fixture, and you'll have consistent heights, and then when we can reuse that origin location work coordinate system on the machine with a vise stop without making a whole lot of adjustments. So in this case, our X and Y coordinate will stay the same for the first 3 ops. At that third op, we will have to adjust the Z height. And then we have our last two ops that are going to have their own origins. It's less of an issue with probing, but still, even with probing, every minute you spend probing, your machine is not cutting parts. So the idea is to get your setup, dial it in with the probe in a fixture, and then you're just loading parts in and out without probing cycles. Okay, so now we're going to go to the post-process tab. We're going to call this 7310, which is the part number, op1, so we'll put a 1 on the end. And we're going to call this op1. And we're going to use work coordinate system 1, unless it allows you to pick 54. For a Haas, the first offset is 54. Alright, we're going to hit OK. And we've set our setup. We're going to change the setup name to op1 so it's consistent with what our program is going to be called. And now we can start programming. So like our similar parts, this should be not the first part you've done in this class, so I'm going to go a little bit faster. We're going to start by doing a face milling operation on the top. We're shifting to using an end mill for this. Part of it is the amount of cramp space on our machine. So typically I would have used a face mill in the past, but we're going to take a couple more passes and just use a 1/2 inch end mill. So we're going to pick on face milling. We're going to select from our current library the 1/2 inch end mill. And we're going to keep everything at default on the top page. Our geometry, we're going to take the default selection. Our heights, we're going to take everything at default. On passes, we do want it to go a certain way. Probably going to default to that direction anyway, but I'm going to put the pass direction as the long distance across the part. And our pass extension, I like to go a little bigger than what default is, just in case your material is a little bit bigger than it's supposed to be. So let's put 0.26, go a little bit farther. Step over at 35 is fine. We're going to go in both directions. We don't need to do multiple depths for this, and we're not going to leave stock to leave. Okay, we're going to go to the last tab. We're going to make sure keep tools down. We're going to keep everything but our vertical lead-in radius, which we're going to set at 0. Okay, we're going to hit OK. And there's our skimming 30 to 40 thousandths off the top of the part. Now we're going to start machining the model, so that means we need to hide the stock that we modeled. And we're going to machine around the outside perimeter of this part. There's not a lot of material coming off here. It's less than 1/4 of an inch. It's about 1/4 of an inch per side at the heaviest places and about 50 to 100 everywhere else. I don't think it's worth doing an adaptive for this. We're just going to go in and do a contour, 2D contour, and we're going to use the 1/2 inch end mill for this. We want a nice stout cutter. So we're going to pick from our aluminum library the tool number 2, which is a 1/2 inch end mill. And then we're going to go to the geometry tab, and we want to cut down, we want to cut this perimeter I've highlighted. We're going to cut that profile, and if you notice, it projects it down to a plane that is at the lowest point of the actual model. That's what we want. And you want to verify the arrow is on the outside of the line. If it's not, you double click on it and it'll cut the opposite side of the line. But if it was on the opposite side of the line, you basically machine your part away. We don't want that. Okay, we're going to go to the heights tab. We're going to change the stock top settings to model top, because we've already machined 30 thousandths off the top. That'll just lower these planes a little bit. And our profile is going to cut to the selected contour. Okay, so by default. But we want to cut a little bit past. We have a plus or minus 10, I believe, tolerance on this height. If this was cut at the high, we'd be left with a little bit of flash where my cursor is by the radius. So to avoid that, we're going to put in negative 10 thousandths. Okay, make sure it's 10 thousandths and not 100. We don't want to run into our steel jaws. Okay, we're going to go to passes. We're going to do compensation where that allows the operator to use cutter compensation. We're going to leave a lot of this at default till we get down to the next boxes. We do want a roughing pass, and once I click that, if we go back up, a box appears of step over for your finish pass. So right now it's going to leave 50 thousandths for our finish step over. We want to actually tighten that up. Right now there might not even be 50 thousandths left on the ends, so it might be just cutting air. But we also are going to have a lot of engagement on the flute at the final cut on here, so we don't want to be taking too much off. So we're going to change that to 10 thousandths. So the rough cut's going to leave 10 thousandths to remove by the finish cut. Okay, our roughing passes box. We have a maximum step over of 475 thousandths. This number doesn't matter if this step over is only 1. If it's more than 1, then this number is how far away those roughing cuts will be from each other. So we're just going to leave that at default. And we're going to go to multiple depths. And maximum roughing depth, I don't want to go that much. That's almost an inch. Let's go 0.25. That's about half the diameter. We're going to do one finishing step down at the bottom. We can leave the default at 8 thousandths. That's actually going to act more of a spring pass. So that any cutter flex, it'll do a slight skim cut. Especially because this is pretty deep. It's at the limits of what our flute length is. Okay, we're going to leave that at default, approach method at default. We are going to finish only at final depth, and that's one reason we wanted to reduce the amount of material being removed. And we're going to use even step downs. And don't worry about order by depth or islands, that only comes into play with pockets and multiple features. Okay, we're going to leave everything else at default, except we're going to check the smoothing deviation. That might help in these radiuses. It's 4/10. It's good. Alright, so in the next tab, we're going to pick the Keep Tool Down tab. Make sure that it doesn't pick up between each pass. We're going to keep our horizontal lead-in radius. The sweep angle's fine, and the linear lead-in is fine. We do not want to do vertical lead-in radius again. Not really a purpose for it, since we're not really cutting a floor per se. And we do want to select our preferred entry point. So I like to put it, if we can, where the operator can see it, and then you can see what's going on. So we're going to pick preferred lead-in location and select one of these endpoints here. Okay, and that way it'll start on that corner and have less chance of a gouging effect. Is it okay? Okay, so we have our lead in and lead out. It's going to be on that corner. And then we do our cuts, and at the bottom we've got our finish in Z, which will act as a spring pass, and our finish in X and Y, which will take it down. We should have just enough flute length. This cutter is got 1.5 inches of flute length, and again our height is 1 inch, 225, so that should be within reach for this cutter. Alright, next we're going to do our chamfer mill around this outside perimeter. So we're going to go to 2D, we're going to go to 2D chamfer, and we're going to go to our tool library, and we're going to select the 90 degrees 1/4 inch blunt chamfer mill. Hit select, and then we're going to go to geometry. We're going to select the surface of the bottom of the part. On heights tab, we're going to go from model top on both of our heights settings, and then on the geometry we're going to leave the wear compensation where it's at. Our chamfer width is going to be 0.01 because it's not modeled on there, so it's 10 thou. And our offset, we're going to go bigger than that. We're going to go 80, and a chamfer clearance isn't going to matter at this point. We'll turn on smoothing, feed optimization. Not likely to either one of them. Well, the smoothing is going to give us a better curve. It might slow down around one of these corners for the feed optimization. Okay, next tab, we're going to leave everything at default and hit OK. And we should get our 10 thou chamfer around the top edge of that. Okay, we are now done with operation 1.